She looked me straight in the eye, the same way she used to ask for coffee in the mornings, and said, "Grant, I want a divorce." Just like that. No anger. No warning. Like she was reading off a grocery list. And what happened next? That one sentence shattered our marriage, gutted our friendship circle, and triggered a series of events that no one, especially her, ever saw coming. I was still gripping my work badge, fresh off a long day of meetings, ready to collapse on the couch, when Avery dropped the bombshell. "I need someone who actually contributes. This isn't the life I signed up for." My ears were ringing. Not because of her words, but because of their absolute absurdity. I blinked. Didn't work? I should have exploded. Should have been crushed. But instead, I was stuck on the sheer audacity of it all. For 5 years, I'd been building an online education company, consulting for institutions, licensing content, creating software behind the scenes. I kept a low profile, sure. But low profile didn't mean low income. I cleared $570,000 last year. Quietly. Deliberately. Because I liked our life. Or thought I did. Avery never once asked about my work. She spent most of her energy redecorating the house and organizing charity brunches. I guess in her mind, I was just drifting. Floating. But it wasn't laziness, it was discretion. And it seemed that discretion had backfired. "All right," I said, setting my bag down with a calm I didn't fully feel. She blinked. "All right. If you want a divorce, I won't stop you." There was a flicker of doubt in her face, a crack in her smug certainty. But she recovered fast. "Good. I've already spoken to an attorney. You'll need to be out by the end of the month." I almost laughed. My house. My mortgage. And she wanted me out. But I didn't fight. Not yet. "Fair enough," I said, and headed upstairs. She expected an argument. A breakdown. Maybe even a last-minute plea for reconciliation. But I gave her nothing. Not because I didn't care. But because I'd already decided, if she wanted to burn our life down, I'd let her. Then I'd watch the ashes bury her. What came next was like living in a slow-motion betrayal. Suddenly, Avery had critiques for everything. How I washed dishes, how I folded shirts, how I wasted time playing chess online at night. It was like she needed to manufacture reasons to hate me. To make herself the victim. Then the names started showing up more often. Carson. Carson recommended this playlist. Carson says the housing market's about to shift. Carson, my best friend since sophomore year of college. The guy who held my bachelor party. The guy who was the best man at our wedding. At first, I thought I was imagining things. But soon, the patterns became impossible to ignore. Avery dressing a little sharper when she grabbed lunch with a friend. Her phone lighting up with messages she never let me see. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Let her think I was clueless. Let her believe I was still the same quiet husband she thought she'd outgrown. One night, as I packed a single duffel with essentials, Avery leaned against the bedroom door with arms crossed and a smile that practically dripped with victory. "So, you figured out where you're staying yet?" she asked. I zipped the bag slowly. "Don't worry about me. I'll be just fine." She shrugged. "Good. Carson and I are hosting a small dinner next weekend. It'd be awkward if you were still here. In my house. With my friend." "Don't worry," I said. "I'll be long gone." She smirked again, like she had won. Like I was slinking away, broken and humiliated. But what she didn't realize was that she just handed me the spark that would start everything. And I don't mean revenge in the loud, explosive sense. No. The best revenge is silence. Patience. And letting people destroy themselves while you take notes, and prepare for the endgame. Because betrayal doesn't hit all at once. It drips. Slow. Rotting the foundation until all you're left with is wreckage and rage. But I was done feeling small. And I was just getting started. The knock came on a Wednesday. I'd just gotten back from signing the lease on a short-term loft rental in downtown Indianapolis, modern, clean, and blissfully empty of all reminders of Avery. I was halfway through making coffee when I heard the door. Not the front one, the back entrance. The one only close friends used. I opened it. And there he was. Carson. Cool, casual, smug as ever. Like he hadn't just detonated a bomb inside my life. "Grant, my man," he said, stepping inside like he owned the place. "Heard you were moving out. Thought I'd check in." He didn't even wait for an invite. Just walked right into my kitchen, glanced around like he was inspecting his new real estate. "What do you want?" I asked flatly. "Just making sure there's no bad blood," he said, leaning against the island. "I mean, things happen. Life, right?" That's when it hit me. He didn't come to make peace. He came to gloat. He came to claim. "Avery told me about the dinner next weekend," he continued, like he was narrating a sitcom episode. "We were thinking of turning the den into an office space. You didn't leave any personal stuff in there, did you?" The audacity almost stunned me into silence. I didn't respond. Just met his eyes with a calm so cold it made him shift. "You know what the funny thing is, Carson?" I said after a beat. "Things do happen. And sometimes they come back to bite you." His smirk faltered. A flicker of something, nervousness, maybe, crossed his face. But I didn't wait for him to recover. I walked past him, back upstairs, my heart pounding in my ears. That was the moment I made the second decision. I wasn't just going to walk away. I was going to watch them collapse. And I'd make damn sure I had front row seats. I started quietly. First, I visited a friend who worked in digital forensics. Nothing invasive, nothing illegal. But let's just say I had questions about IP locations and metadata that needed clarifying. Then I pulled up Avery's shared calendar, something she probably forgot I still had access to. And what I found confirmed everything. Meetups with Carson labeled as consultation, hotel check-ins camouflaged under spa day, phone calls in the middle of the night marked emergency work issue. I printed everything. Dated. Annotated. And then I waited. You see, Avery thought I'd fight her during the divorce. That I'd beg to stay in the house. That I'd argue for assets. I didn't. I agreed to everything. The house? Hers. The furniture? All yours. The joint savings? Take it. She walked away thinking she'd won the lottery. What she didn't know was that I'd already funneled 90% of my actual wealth into a holding company registered under a trust. The joint account? Just a decoy. The house? A lease I ended 3 days later. The real money? In places she didn't even know existed. Crypto assets, international accounts, a lucrative licensing deal signed under my LLC after our separation date. Avery thought she took everything. She didn't even get a taste. But that wasn't the twist. The twist came one night when I decided to check an old backup drive from our security system. I hadn't looked at it in months. It recorded clips of the living room camera on motion, usually just pets, or mail deliveries. Except one video, from 2 months ago, recorded at 1:14 a.m. titled, Avery Carson Kitchen. I pressed play. I won't go into detail, but watching them celebrate in the space I built, laugh and toast and kiss in the glow of our refrigerator light, it did something to me. Not rage. Not sadness. Clarity. That's when I remembered something. When I was 16, my high school girlfriend cheated on me with a guy from the track team. I found out when someone posted a blurry photo of them kissing behind the gym. I remember sitting in the bleachers alone that night, staring at the lights on the field, promising myself I'd never be the guy who explodes. I'd be the guy who waits, who builds, who wins quietly. And suddenly, I realized this wasn't a news story. It was a repeat. And I already knew how it ended. When I was 16, I made a vow on a cold metal bleacher with my heart in shards. I'd found out my girlfriend back then, Jenna, with her signature cherry lip balm and spiral notebook doodles of our initials, had kissed Connor Griggs behind the gym after practice. A girl in our math class had snapped a blurry photo and passed it around like it was candy. I didn't scream. I didn't confront. I remember just sitting there, the late autumn wind biting through my hoodie, telling myself, never again. Never let them see you bleed. That promise came rushing back as I watched Carson kiss my wife in the kitchen I had painted with my own hands. Same betrayal. Different decade. But this time, I had experience. I shut the laptop and stared at the window, the city below glowing with the kind of quiet, golden energy that made it feel like anything was possible. Then I picked up my phone and began calling in favors. The thing about running a successful consulting firm is you meet all kinds of people, marketers, reputation managers, ex-journalists turned private investigators. And more importantly, people who owe you. I didn't want to hurt them physically. That's not how you win in the real world. I wanted to hurt their reputation, their image, their illusion. And the first crack came from a source I didn't expect, my neighbor's teenage son. I got a text one night. "Hey, Mr. Dawson. I wasn't sure if you wanted to know, but that dude Carson? He's been bragging that he's gonna flip your house into a high-value Airbnb and use it for influencer weekends. Also, I heard him tell my mom Avery's paying for everything. Is that true? Flip my house? Influencer weekends?" I could have laughed if I wasn't so stunned. The arrogance wasn't just offensive, it was tactical ignorance. They had no idea the property management company I used had already started the process of terminating the lease under my name. Because, surprise, the house Avery was so proud to seize in the divorce wasn't technically mine. It was company property. Rented, not owned. And the new tenants? Arriving the following Monday. I sent a copy of the lease termination notice to Avery's email with the subject line, "For your records." She didn't respond. But Carson did. His name popped up on my caller ID a few hours later. I let it ring twice before answering. "What the hell is this, Grant?" His voice was tight, on the edge of cracking. "I'm not sure what you mean. You said Avery could keep the house." "No," I said evenly. "I said she could have it. Never said I owned it." There was a pause. Then, "You smug son of a..." I hung up. The next few weeks were like watching two people unravel in slow motion. Carson's attempt to get a personal loan failed. I knew, because the loan officer worked at a credit union where I once did a free branding workshop. Avery's credit card was frozen because she missed 2 minimum payments. They started fighting. Not just behind closed doors, but publicly, at a wine bar, in the Whole Foods parking lot, even once at the dog park where they'd, accidentally, taken my old mutt Toby, which they never officially adopted. That's when I launched the second phase of my plan. I contacted a former client, a real estate investor who specialized in flipping, emotionally distressed, properties. She was always looking for unique deals. I told her about the house Avery was so desperate to cling to and offered her the lease transfer details. She closed on it in 3 days. Avery found out when a notice was taped to the front door while she was filming a lifestyle vlog. The eviction was immediate. Turns out Carson had defaulted on a previous lease too, something Avery never bothered checking. They were forced to move into a one-bedroom sublet 40 minutes outside the city. The cracks turned to craters. But I wasn't done. Because this wasn't about a house, or a lease, or even the money. It was about the principle. The lie. The fact that the woman who once said I didn't contribute had no idea she'd been living off my income the entire time. And Carson, the man who called me brother, never even asked what I did for work before deciding he could do better. So, I made sure everyone else found out for them. I gave a talk at our old university, spoke on entrepreneurship and passive income. It was live-streamed. Shared on social. Avery's friends watched it. Her cousins texted her. The comments on her latest Instagram post said it all. "Wait, isn't this your ex? He's crushing it. Why'd you leave that guy?" I didn't post anything directly. No passive-aggressive subtweets. No victory dances. Just success. Quiet, relentless, undeniable. But the best part. It hadn't even peaked yet. Because a storm was brewing. And I knew exactly when it would hit. It started with the dinner party. The one Avery had smugly mentioned weeks ago. A celebration of new beginnings, she called it. Invitations were sent out, the guest list curated like a magazine spread, ex-friends of mine, old clients, mutual acquaintances from the fitness studio we used to go to. Everyone was expected to witness her glow up. But what no one knew, not even Avery, was that the house was no longer hers to host in. I got the call from Marla, the investor I'd sold the lease rights to. "Grant, just wanted to let you know," she said, barely suppressing a laugh. "They tried to throw a party in a house they no longer legally occupy. Police had to show up and escort them out." I blinked. Police? They were still serving hors d'oeuvres. Turns out Carson had insisted the eviction was a clerical error, and went ahead with the event anyway. The real estate company had been notified by the neighbors, one of whom, bless her nosy heart, filmed the whole thing and sent it to a private Facebook group. The video? It went viral. "Evicted mid-party, influencer meltdown in Brookstone Heights." I didn't share it. I didn't have to. The internet did it for me. Avery's socials went dark. Carson's account was deleted altogether. They'd lost not just their home, but their image, the one thing they valued more than the relationship itself. Still, I wasn't done watching. Because the collapse wasn't over. It was just getting started. Carson, in a desperate attempt to reclaim his ego, tried launching a freelance consulting gig. Problem was, his resume was thin and his reputation thinner. The tech community, especially the design firm we both used to work for, had already heard whispers. Word spreads fast when you burn someone like me. He got blacklisted from a few circles. Burned through his contacts in less than 2 months. And Avery? She tried to revive her beauty brand by pivoting to empowerment coaching. A new Instagram, some motivational reels, even a clunky attempt at a podcast. It flopped. No one wanted advice from the woman who had publicly ridiculed her ex-husband and then gotten evicted during a wine and cheese party. Then came the desperate text. "Grant, I know you probably hate me. But I need help. Please." I didn't answer. The next day, she showed up at my office. This time, she didn't look smug. She looked hollow. The designer clothes were replaced with something off the rack. No makeup. Hair pulled into a limp bun. "Grant," she said, not even trying to smile, "I'm not here to fight. I just need a friend." A friend. The irony was so sharp it practically drew blood. "You left me," I said, standing. "You cheated on me. You stole what you thought was mine. And now you want a lifeline?" Tears welled in her eyes. "I didn't know. I didn't realize how much you were actually doing. You hid everything from me. You never asked?" She opened her mouth, then closed it again. No argument. Just silence. But that wasn't the moment that hit the hardest. That came a week later, when I ran into Carson, alone. I was at a conference in Chicago, grabbing coffee in the lobby between panels. I turned, and there he was, same guy, but not the same man. His jacket was frayed at the cuffs. His shoes scuffed. He looked like a man who hadn't slept in weeks. "Grant," he said. I raised an eyebrow. "Didn't expect to see you here." He shoved his hands in his pockets. "I'm not attending. I'm helping run AV." He wasn't joking. Carson, once the loudest voice in the room, was now setting up cables for the people who used to admire him. He didn't ask for help. He didn't have to. I just nodded, offered a professional smile, and walked away. That was the final nail. Not because of the fall, but because he knew I'd seen it. And I hadn't even needed to lift a finger. They'd built their castle on sand. And now the tide had taken it. The final message came 2 months later. It was from Avery. No hello, no pretense. "We're over. I should have listened. You were the only one who ever really saw me." I didn't respond. Not because I didn't have anything to say, but because silence was the answer. Carson had left her, just like I knew he would. The new girlfriend from his AV gig had lasted all of 3 weeks. Turns out being charming only gets you so far when you're jobless and bitter. He'd ghosted Avery without so much as a note, leaving her with overdue bills, a lease she couldn't afford, and a life she had built on borrowed delusions. Avery had become a ghost of herself. And I, ironically, was more alive than I'd ever been. I spent most of that spring traveling, something I hadn't done since college. Santorini, Kyoto, Vancouver. I took my laptop with me, but barely opened it. My team ran everything smoothly. My income climbed past $560,000 without me needing to hustle 24/7. That's the beauty of systems. Of focus. Of being underestimated. One night, I was sitting on the rooftop terrace of a boutique hotel in Mexico City. A warm breeze on my face, mezcal in my glass, and a view of a cathedral that looked like it was carved from a dream. A jazz trio played down below in the square. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even watching. I'd let go. Because the truest revenge, the kind that carves itself into the soul of those who wronged you, isn't ruin. It's indifference. It's thriving. It's living a life they will never be able to reach, because it's not made of things. It's made of peace. People still ask me sometimes, "Do you ever think about her? About him?" Of course I did. But not with pain. More like the way you remember a storm after it passes, a strange gratitude that it happened, because now the air is cleaner, the sky is sharper. What Avery and Carson gave me wasn't betrayal. It was liberation disguised as heartbreak. They broke the version of me that needed approval. That doubted his own worth. That played small to make others comfortable. And from those broken pieces, I built something better. Now, when people say my name, they don't think of the man who got cheated on. They think of the man who built an empire, disappeared quietly, and came back with a smile they couldn't explain. So no, I never saw revenge. I just became something they couldn't ignore. And that is louder than any scream.